All right, guys, welcome back to a fun video. This is going to be pretty cool. So I decided to check out some of my older devices while waiting on my new devices. And I've got several devices here that I have enjoyed over the years that I honestly just don't use anymore because they were replaced by other devices. So we're going to go back in time, starting with 2020. This was a good one. This is my Moto G Power. Now this phone has a Snapdragon 665, 4 gigs of RAM, 16 megapixel shooter that does 4K. It's a 6.4 inch display, and it has a fingerprint reader in the Motorola logo, which I thought was very cool. And it has a 6.4 inch display, 1080 by 2300, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, folks. You just can't get phones like this to exist really anymore, and I think it's sad because this is such a good phone. Now I use this heavily for at least a year or more, if I can remember, on my Google Fi line. I've been with them since Project Fi. So, and when I look back at some of the videos, I'll try to link the unboxing videos to these down below, or first impressions or something to the phones you're going to see in this video. But this device right here, some of these devices that I powered up actually got an update right out of the box, and I haven't powered on some of these in quite some time. And they were still charged to at least 50%. All of them were. So some of them were at 100. This one was at about 80 or 90. But then I did a software update because this was one of the ones that actually got a software update, and it's still kind of updating right now. But it takes it up to the June 1st, 2021 security patch, and it'll probably get some more support. I don't know. This is running on Android 11, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be running on Android 11. Yeah, this is on Android 11. Oh, I could have just come back here. It's running on Android 11, and it is still flowing right along. I really like the hardware on here, but I didn't like the shininess of the device. So I went right out immediately, if you remember, and I bought the UHD case because there was some controversy whether this would work with this phone or not, because it wasn't technically made for this phone model, but it did in fact work. And this is how I rocked it out on Google Fi for some years. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I still actually brought it in. Like I was taking this, I used it on Project Fi or Google Fi, but I used it after that to take on trips and things like that. So if I wanted something where I didn't have to worry about battery and we were going to be out on the beach, or we are just going to be gone all day, I would literally pop my SIM card in this phone right here, and it was good enough. The cameras on here, fantastic cameras. Let me see here. Let me grab something current day so I could take a picture. Here's the Pixel 6a. So current day, I mean, it's already in video because last thing I did was shot video. So it does shoot 4K UHD. I mean, when I'm looking at this now, and oh yeah, I remember it does 4K by 19 by 9. That's cool, man. I had the 19 by 9 feature on here. Really really crazy, man. This is so crazy that you can do this. But yeah, the phone itself was actually really good. Look how long it took to switch to the camera. But the quick shutter time, really nice. It's processing the photo. There we go. It's processing it. Wow, I mean, processing. There we go. So you just had the little logo down there. Shot on Moto G Power by Mr. J.L. Williams. This is a really good camera. The phone itself turned out to be just really good, and I really liked it a lot. Now I got this phone right here to replace my other Moto, which was a Moto G7. Now the Moto G7, if you remember, it was the one that got cracked. And remember, I just put some clear tape on here and continue to use this, and believe it or not, it still works. I mean, I was blown away to know that I could probably just still use this, and it actually feels even more speedier. And it could be that phone is still doing the update, but this was 2020 right here. This I got in 2019. Now this has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery with a Snapdragon 632 inside, 12 megapixel on the back, shooting 4K, 6.2 inch display at 1080 by 2270. this was one of my favorite devices, folks. I have to admit, it was really smooth. I hated that I dropped it. You guys remember when I dropped it? I was standing up and it fell out of my lap and it shattered like this. And I just couldn't believe it. And it broke pretty much as soon as I got it. And I used it like this for quite some time. Again, headphone jack, Type-C. Motorola was doing the most back in the day, folks. If you remember, I used to review a lot of Motorola devices because they're actually the hottest thing on the market. Motorola was killing the affordable game, and I reviewed a lot of their products and I bought a lot of their products. This is a speedy device right here too, and I used to love these cameras. We're going to bring in the 6A again. We're going to take a photo just like we did a moment ago. Focus hunting in full effect, man. This thing is focus hunting. Quick shutter, though. You can't sleep on that shutter. That is a fast shutter with a decent processing time. But man, these cameras were good enough. They were good enough. I mean, they did their thing at the time for what they were needed for. I mean, we're talking about a 3-year-old device and a 2-year-old device already, and it's amazing how the time flies by. What I liked about the Motorola devices, the fingerprint reader in the logo. I thought that was so cool, and I can't believe so many people didn't adapt this back in the day or even try. So maybe Motorola had a patent on it, I don't know. But this is still a speedy device, man. So when people talk current day, talking about, oh, it needs to have 10 gigs of RAM, it needs this, it needs that, I just don't believe it to be true, because these devices back in the day were 3 years back, had 4 gigs of RAM. Now let's go back a little farther. There's a jump here, and this was a phone that I truly loved. I mean, it was one of my favorites. All the other phones older than this, folks, I've either donated them or they're in my storage. I could go back even further, but this is 2017, and we've got the Xiaomi Mi A1. This was their Android One lineup right here, where it was stock Android. We're talking about a 3,080 milliamp hour battery, 4 gigs of RAM, and one of the best processors in the game, a Snapdragon 625. Who knows? We're 5 years back now. Who knows how good this device was and how good the Snapdragon 625 is? And I'm not going to say was, because this device was the truth. I remember I had all the different colors. I had the gold, the red. I sold those 2 colors because for some reason I wanted to get this color. I don't know why. It's like a pink looking color. It was just dope at the time. I think I had like a black case on it or something. I can't find that case, but talk about greatness. This is one of the speediest, most fluid. It was their attempt to bring stock Android and have alliance with Google. Remember? This was the overseas Pixels. You know what I mean? Anybody know? Man, what's up? This thing shot 4K, has a 5.5 inch display, because people were calling it the iPhone or whatever. You remember the iPhone 7 Plus? Yeah, that's what they were saying this was a switch over to. But I mean, 1080 by 1920. Remember that resolution? Those 16 by 9 aspect ratios that people really love so much. And remember, folks, this is a 14 nanometer chip. So I'm talking about still running strong. I could definitely just use this as a day-to-day device. I genuinely could. It's incredible how these devices have sat. And now the devices I'm showing you in this video, they're not in my storage. They're actually in a cabinet, one of my locked cabinets right here in my office. So this device, man, the hardware is ahead of its time. And you can see why people said, oh, that's just an iPhone 7 Plus. They were hating though, because this had the headphone jack, it had the nice IR blaster, the fingerprint reader on the back, very eclectic colors that it came in. The red to me was like that boss up color, but I just was drawn to this one right here. So this camera right here, we're gonna bring it in, and just remember, man, we're looking at options here from years ago, and I was so in love with this phone right here, man. Oh my God. And you look at the shutter speeds on most of these devices that I'm bringing up. What you're seeing is a fast shutter speed and a slow processing time, you know, but these are all decent and can totally be worked with. This has got to be one of my favorite. I have Xiaomi phones that are locked away. I don't want to go into my storage real deep and get them, but I could go back really far, folks. And some of the Xiaomi phones you saw on the channel before, I gave them to family members. Like they would break a phone or something like that, or I gave them to son's wife and stuff like that. I gave him a phone. They broke their phones at one point in their 20s. They were breaking phones like every other week. I'm like, man, seriously? So I gave them a lot of the Xiaomi phones, and they still somehow managed to shatter the front screen. I'm like, golly, I even gave them cases. It was incredible. This, folks, is by far one of the best phones that I ever experienced, and I was super excited to finally get it in. And then I started getting other colors, and I just started buying. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I had so many Xiaomi phones at one point, I had to start giving them away. And if you've been rocking with your man long enough, it was a Xiaomi phone on this channel. It seems like every month or every 6 months, it was a whole bunch of them. Now let's stay in 2017, and let's go a little bit deeper in a different direction, coming back to the US with one of the best phones I've ever purchased and bought on the channel. This is the HTC U11. Oh boy. When you talk about hardware and you talk about ahead of its time, this for sure was ahead of its time. Now remember, I broke my SIM tray and I tried to take it apart. I did not want to not use this phone. I was pissed when the SIM tray failed, the SIM card slot failed. I was furious, man. I mean furious. I bought another SIM tray. I took it apart, did the thing and everything, and it just still didn't work. And I was so mad. So I actually keep this phone inside of a case because you can see it's kind of still, I didn't seal it up really good on there. But this phone runs really well. This is running the Snapdragon 835, 6 gigs of RAM, 3000 mAh battery, 12 megapixel shooter, 5.5 inch Quad HD display, folks. We're talking about 2017. Quad HD display, 5.5. Beautiful. Remember all the bezels, and you got the fingerprint reader down here. Man, it was, this phone got talked about a lot, but this was definitely one of the best phones in the game. And where it shined the most is right here, man. The cameras, if you know the history of the channel, once I got this phone on in my hands, it became my phone for video. Look how fast these shutter speeds are. It became my phone for video, vlogs. Front camera was one of the best in the game. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and snap a front camera shot because, hold on, let me get off here. I'm going to show you how good this is. You're not going to believe this. Look at that. Processing HDR. Still one of the best in the game. If you look at this detail, man. Look at the detail. It can even pick up the frizzies on my hair. I mean, are you serious right now? Incredible, man. Incredible. It even got a little blur on the background back there. I didn't even try to do that. This is still one of the best cameras in the game, folks. I could use this to vlog right now. This will go down in history as one of the best phones I've ever used. And if I can tell you one thing, if I could have gotten that SIM tray working, I would still be using this phone today. The thing that was in question back then, though, was the battery. This didn't have the strongest battery life because it was pushing up that Quad HD display and had a lot going on. And you remember this, folks? Remember this right here? Remember this? Where is it at? Where'd you go? Boom. Remember this? Huh? Do you remember this? What? What? Do you remember this? Edge Sense, folks. Edge Sense. This was like game changing, man. That was game changing. People hated on it. Even Google did it for a little bit. Really sweet. It still works too. Isn't that something? Boom. Fire up the camera by squeezing it. Oh, this is beast mode right here. I'm telling you, folks, one of the best in the game. I could go on and on. I proved to a lot of people that this phone can beat up on current day phones when I did a throwback. Remember I did the throwback, and remember I did the camera battle? Ooh, I even had the red one. I broke the red one. So, where can we go next? Where can we go next? Now, this device We're gonna stay in we're gonna go to 2016 right now. Now this device right here was one that was not controversial, but it was a little controversial for the way it looked because it was different. And then also the battery size. People hated the battery size. And it is the Sony XA Ultra. I personally love the way this phone looked. Remember, another controversy behind this phone was the cameras. The front camera was the one that they gave the love to. They gave it OIS, they gave it optical stabilization on the front camera, and it was not on the rear. So you had this shaky footage with this rear camera right here. And yes, folks, remember the old school little single cameras with one little flash? And I had to put tape on here because the SIM tray broke. I still can use this phone to this day too, and I actually do fire it up sometimes. I think I took this one time to the beach. I think I took it to the movies one night too, and I just like, I want a big screen to look at. I don't really care if I lose it or not. But this phone has 3 gigs of RAM. The Helio P10, folks. It has a 21 megapixel that shoots in 1080p on the front. And the front has 16, but it has 1080p, and it has a 6-inch display. And the controversy behind this, which made this such a sleek looking device, was it had no bezels along the side. Like the screen just kind of overflowed. This was some of these phones were ahead of their time, folks. They were ahead of their time. This is a phenomenal phone right here, man. But some people hated the battery life. 2,700 milliamp hour battery in this thing, and I could see why. And you remember it has the dedicated camera button right here. So I just pressed it. Look, let's see how long let me see. I might have it disabled. I'm not sure. Yeah, I might have it disabled. I used to have that set to where you press it and it'll man, you look at some of these menus, it's like, whoa. That is a slow processing time, man. But hey, and you see how long it took for it to get over to the menu. Oh man. Oh man, these are that rear camera caught a lot of heat, man, because it just wasn't that good. But the front camera, I'll snap a front shot. Let's see here. I'll snap a front shot real quick. Now, amazingly enough, the front camera shutter is actually really fast. And it was controversial because the front camera was better than the rear camera at the time, and people just couldn't understand that. Like even this, look at how good this is doing, man. It's crazy. People couldn't understand at the time why would they give optical image stabilization to the front camera and not the rear? Or they wanted people to vlog with this camera. The front camera was much better than the rear. And I just couldn't believe how much I enjoyed this phone, man. It was such a fun device. And I was just thrown when this came out. When I finally got it, I was so shook. I loved it. Now, where can we go from here? Well, let's stay in 2016 and go all the way back. Let's go to like the middle or so. And the device that I'm going to show next, folks, will go down in history as like the king of kings for sound quality. The king of kings for sound quality. Nothing beat this phone at all, which is the Axon 7. The Axon 7, again, another powerhouse ahead of its time. 3250 on the milliamps for the battery. Tons of people probably still use this today. Mine actually works, but what's unique about this phone is the hardware. It has dual front-facing speakers, which were never matched by any other device, man. At that time, nothing touched it. You've got 4 gigs of RAM, a Snapdragon 820, 20 megapixel shooter on the back that does 4K, and a 5.5-inch Quad HD display. Isn't that crazy? I mean, crazy. The hardware on here was so good. You have the fingerprint reader right here, the LED, the headphone jack, and a single shooter on the top there with Type-C, canceling microphone and microphone. This was just so good, folks. It's incredible. I'm gonna fire up a video with this one because I'm so like, whoa! I cannot believe that this thing is as good as it is. Let me grab something to look at here.
Do you own your home in Texas?
I do own my home.
Electricity? If you pay more than $50 a month and
let's crank up.
$1,500.
Crank up the brightness.
With my deal, I will disclose I got connected services.
This is just.
Engine light went away, and I haven't had that problem since. I didn't want to waste time going to the dealer because they just would have done the same thing.
Beautiful display.
I don't want to waste my day.
Beautiful speakers.
And then again, I have my own code reader, so I read it. I didn't see anything. Could have been that it was really hot. Again,
nothing touching it.
Something to make the truck look different on the outside. So, but for me personally,
beautiful.
This is
freaking beautiful. King of Kings, folks.
Black wheel type of person. All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's probably been a minute. But
this is, I mean, I'm talking about beautiful display, beautiful speakers, beautiful hardware, really good cameras. And at one point, remember, I was using this phone to vlog with this rear camera. If you've been knowing me long enough, I mean, you got to been following along. I'm going to try to link all the unboxes, or at least first impressions, for all these devices down below, so you can go see how I was. If you don't know me from back in the day in 2016, 6 years back with this one, folks. If you don't know who I was as a creator back then, I think you'll enjoy how I've come to where I'm at right now. Compare the 2016 J-Will to the 2022 J-Will and see if you see any differences, or am I still rocking the same? Yeah. I even have the official leather case that was a limited run, and I really thank them for giving me this case because I tried to purchase it and I just couldn't get it. It was just never in stock. But this was one of the sweetest. This phone feels so good in the hand, folks. And I really wanted the gray version, but as you can see, I have a developer edition because this is when I was doing heavy beta testing and background work for ZTE on their new phones before they came out. So I actually had this phone about 3 to 6 months before it even released. One of the hardest things to keep to myself, but I really enjoyed it, folks. I miss all the things that ZTE was doing back in the day. One of the best companies to work with, really looked out for the consumers. If you don't know about that community that we had back in the day, it's now closed because all things come to an end. But this, folks, was a legend in the game. A legend. So it's your man Jay. I hope you enjoyed the official backwards run of some great phones, man, that just this should have been something that got continued and can still be going into generations now. And believe it or not, I actually have a lot of the current Axons, but they just don't match up. It's your man Jay. Hope you guys enjoyed an extended look at the past. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.